Dr. Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his forehead as he finished stitching up the last patient of his night shift. The emergency bay of Medical Station Omega-7 was finally quiet after a busy evening. 3 bar fights, 2 shuttle accidents, and 1 alien food poisoning case had kept him running for 12 straight hours. Jake loved his job, but nights like this made him wonder why he had chosen to work on a frontier medical station instead of a comfortable hospital back on Earth. The station sat in the middle of the neutral zone, a stretch of space between human and alien territories where different species could meet and trade without starting wars. It was dangerous work, but someone had to patch up the traders, diplomats, and travelers who passed through this corner of the galaxy. Jake was cleaning his medical tools when the station's alarm system started screaming. Red lights flashed across the emergency bay as Commander Lisa Grant's voice crackled over the speakers. All medical personnel to emergency stations. An authorized shuttle crash in Docking Bay 7. Repeat, crash landing in Docking Bay 7. Jake grabbed his medical bag and ran toward the docking bay. His boots echoed against the metal floors as he raced through the station's corridors. Other crew members were running too, their faces tense with worry. Crash landings were always bad news, but unauthorized ones were even worse. When Jake reached Docking Bay 7, he found Security Chief Captain Roy Henderson and his team already there. The crash shuttle was a mess of twisted metal and smoking parts. It looked like an old Catherian transport, but Jake could not be sure. The front section was completely destroyed. "Anyone alive in there?" Jake called out as he approached the wreckage. "We're checking now," Henderson replied. The shuttle's emergency beacon was broadcasting for help, but it cut out about 10 minutes ago. Jake watched as 2 security officers used cutting tools to open the shuttle's rear compartment. Steam and smoke poured out as they broke through the damaged door. Then one of them stepped back quickly. "Captain, you need to see this," the officer said. His voice shaking. Jake pushed past Henderson and looked inside the shuttle. A young alien girl lay unconscious on the floor, her body covered in severe burns. She was clearly Catherian, with the typical blue-gray skin and pointed ears of that species. But something was different about her face. Jake had seen many Catherians during his time on the station, and this girl had strange markings on her forehead that he had never seen before. "She's badly hurt," Jake said, kneeling beside the girl. "We need to get her to the medical bay right now." "Wait," Henderson said, grabbing Jake's arm. "Look at her face markings. Do you know what those mean?" Jake looked closer at the girl's forehead. The markings were deep scars that formed strange symbols. They looked like they had been carved into her skin, not tattooed. The girl's breathing was shallow and weak. "I don't care what they mean," Jake said firmly. "She's dying. We need to move her now." As they lifted the girl onto a medical stretcher, Jake noticed something else. She was much thinner than any Catherian he had ever seen. Her arms and legs showed signs of old injuries and malnutrition. Whatever had happened to her, it had been going on for a long time. The medical bay was only 3 minutes away, but it felt like forever as Jake worked to stabilize the girl during transport. Her pulse was weak, and her breathing kept getting worse. The plasma burns on her chest and arms were deep and infected. Jake had treated many injuries in his career, but this girl looked like she had been through hell. "Amy, I need you in here now," Jake called to his friend and fellow nurse Amy Turner as they entered the medical bay. "We have a critical patient." Amy took one look at the girl and started preparing the emergency treatment room. "What happened to her?" she asked. "Shuttle crash," Jake replied, but he knew that was not the whole story. The girl's injuries were too old, too systematic. This was not just an accident. As Jake worked to clean and treat the girl's burns, the station's communication system buzzed with an incoming message. Commander Grant's voice filled the medical bay. Double quotes, "Dr. Morrison, report to my office immediately. We have a situation." "I can't leave now," Jake replied over the intercom. "I have a critical patient who needs immediate care." "The patient can wait. This is urgent." Jake looked at the unconscious girl on his treatment table. Her vital signs were slowly getting better, but she was still in serious danger. Commander, this girl will die if I leave her now. Whatever you need to discuss can wait 30 minutes. There was a long pause before Grant responded. Very well, but I need you in my office as soon as she's stable. Jake continued working on the girl's injuries. As he cleaned the plasma burns, he noticed something strange. The burns were not random. They formed patterns like someone had deliberately tried to hurt her in specific ways. Jake had seen torture victims before, and this girl showed all the signs. Jake, Amy whispered, look at this. Amy was examining the girl's arms and found old scars that looked like shackle marks. The girl had been chained up, probably for a long time. Jake felt his anger growing. Who would do this to a child? After an hour of intensive treatment, the girl's condition finally stabilized. She was still unconscious, but her breathing was stronger and her pulse was steady. Jake had done everything he could for now. The girl would need more surgery later, but at least she was alive. As Jake cleaned up his equipment, the medical bay. Doors opened. Commander Grant walked in, followed by Dr. Kevin Stone, the station's chief medical officer. Both of them looked extremely worried. Dr. Morrison, Grant said, we need to talk about your patient. What about her? Jake asked. Dr. Stone stepped forward. Jake, that girl has facial markings that identify her as Velther. Do you know what that means? Jake shook his head. I've never heard that term before. The Velther are the lowest caste in Catherian society, Stone explained. They're considered untouchable by other Catherians. Most species won't even acknowledge their existence. So, Jake said, she's still a patient who needs medical care. Grant looked uncomfortable. Jake, we've received communication from the Catherian delegation on the station. They're demanding that we turn the girl over to them immediately. Why? Jake asked. Because according to Catherian law, she shouldn't exist. The Velther are supposed to be kept in special facilities on their homeworld. If she's here, it means she escaped from somewhere she wasn't supposed to leave. Jake looked at the sleeping girl on his treatment table. She looked so young and fragile. What do they want to do with her? Stone and Grant exchanged glances. They want to take her back to their homeworld for what they call cultural correction, Stone said quietly. Jake felt his blood turn cold. You mean they want to kill her? We don't know that, Grant said quickly. But we also can't afford to start a diplomatic incident over one alien girl. The Catherians are powerful allies, and we need their support in this sector. Jake stared at his commanding officers. So you want me to hand over a patient to people who will probably kill her just to keep our allies happy? Jake, be reasonable, Dr. Stone said. We have to respect other species' cultural practices even if we don't agree with them. My medical oath says I have to do no harm, Jake replied firmly. Handing over a patient to be killed would definitely cause harm. Commander Grant sighed. Jake, I understand your position, but this is bigger than one patient. We have to think about the greater good. Jake looked at the girl again. She was starting to stir, her eyes moving under her closed lids. Soon she would wake up, and Jake would have to decide whether to save her life or sacrifice her to politics. I need time to think about this, Jake said. You have until tomorrow morning, Grant replied. The Catherian delegation is meeting with me then, and they expect an answer. After Grant and Stone left, Jake sat beside the girl's bed. Amy came over and put her hand on his shoulder. What are you going to do? She asked. Jake looked at the girl's scarred face and thought about his oath as a doctor. I'm going to save her life, he said quietly. No matter what it costs me. Jake spent the rest of the night sitting beside the alien girl's bed, watching her sleep. Every few minutes he checked her vital signs and adjusted her medication. The plasma burns were healing slowly, but Jake was more worried about the older injuries he had found. The girl's body told a story of systematic abuse that made his stomach turn when morning came. The girl finally opened her eyes. They were a deep purple color, unusual even for a Catherian. She looked around the medical bay with confusion and fear, then tried to sit up quickly. Easy, Jake said softly, gently pushing her back down. You're safe now. You're in a medical facility? The girl stared at him with wide, frightened eyes. She said something in the Catherian language that Jake did not understand. Then she switched to Broken Universal Standard, the common language used for trade between species. Where dot? Where am I? She whispered. You're on Medical Station Omega 7. Jake explained. Your shuttle crashed in our docking bay. I'm Dr. Jake Morrison. I've been treating your injuries. The girl's eyes filled with tears. They will find me. They will take me back. Who will take you back? Jake asked gently. The purifiers, the girl said, her voice shaking. I escaped from the cleansing facility. They will be looking for me. Jake felt his heart sink. What's a cleansing facility? The girl looked at him with surprise. You do not know? Your people do not have such places? No, Jake said. Can you tell me about it? The girl was quiet for a long time. Then she spoke in a voice so soft Jake had to lean closer to hear her. It is where they take the Velther? They say it is to purify our souls, to make us clean, but... She touched the scars on her forehead. They only make us suffer. Many do not survive the purification. What's your name? Jake asked. I am called Zara, she replied, but that is not my real name. The Velther are not allowed to keep their birth names. Jake felt anger building inside him. How long were you in this facility? 5 cycles of the seasons, Zara said. Since I was very young. They took me from my family when my markings appeared. And you escaped? Zara nodded. I stole a shuttle. During a supply delivery. I did not know how to pilot it properly. I just wanted to get away. Jake examined her injuries more carefully now that she was awake. The plasma burns were from the crash, but the older wounds painted a horrific picture. Scars from electric shocks, marks from restraints, and signs of deliberate starvation. Jake had seen torture victims before, but never someone so young. Zara, Jake said carefully, I need to ask you something important. Are there others like you in these facilities? Many, she whispered. Hundreds, maybe thousands. They bring new ones every few days. Jake felt sick. This was not just abuse of one person. This was systematic genocide disguised as religious practice. The medical bay doors opened, and Amy Turner walked in carrying a food tray. She stopped when she saw that Zara was awake. How is she doing? Amy asked. Better, Jake replied. Amy. This is Zara. Zara, this is Amy. She's been helping me take care of you. Amy smiled at Zara, but the alien girl shrank back in fear. It's okay, Amy said gently. I'm a friend. She is human too? Zara asked Jake. Yes, Jake said. We're both human. Most of the medical staff here are human. Zara looked confused. But humans are not supposed to touch the Velther. It brings contamination. That's not true, Jake said firmly. There's nothing contaminated about you. You're just a person who needs help. Zara stared at him in amazement. You touched me to heal me, even knowing what I am? I touched you because you're my patient, Jake said. That's what doctors do. We help people who are hurt. Amy set the food tray down beside Zara's bed. Are you hungry? I brought you some soup? Zara looked at the food with desperate hunger, but she did not move to take it. I am not allowed to eat without permission, she said. You have my permission, Jake said. In fact, I'm ordering you to eat. You need nutrition to heal. Zara picked up the spoon with shaking hands and tasted the soup. Her eyes widened with surprise and pleasure. This is good, she said. When was the last time you had a proper meal? Amy asked. Zara thought about it. I do not remember. At the facility, they gave us nutrition paste once per day. Sometimes less. Jake and Amy exchanged horrified looks. Jake made a mental note to document everything Zara told him about the cleansing facility. If there were others suffering like this, someone needed to know. While Zara ate, Jake checked on his other patients. The station was busy as always, with travelers from different species coming and going, but Jake noticed something strange. When word spread that there was a Velther in the medical bay, the alien visitors started avoiding that section of the STATIO, and a Zentarian trader who had been scheduled for a routine checkup canceled his appointment. A group of vegan diplomats who usually visited the medical bay for their daily health supplements suddenly stopped coming. Even the normally friendly Rigelian engineers who maintained the station's systems found excuses to work elsewhere. "They're all afraid of her," Amy said quietly as she watched the bullion merchant hurry past the medical bay entrance. "Afraid of what?" Jake asked. "She's just a sick girl." "I think it's more than that," Amy said. "I've been asking around, and none of the other species will even talk about the Velther. It's like they don't want to acknowledge they exist." Jake was interrupted by his communication device beeping. It was Dr. Stone. "Morrison, report to my office immediately," Stone's voice said. Jake sighed. "I'll be back soon," he told Amy and Zara. Dr. Stone's office was on the upper level of the medical section. When Jake arrived, he found Stone pacing behind his desk, looking very agitated. "Jake, we have a problem," Stone said. "The Cytherian delegation is putting pressure on Commander Grant to hand over the girl. They're saying she's a dangerous criminal." "She's not dangerous," Jake said. "She's a victim." "That's not how they see it," Stone replied. "According to them, she stole a shuttle and violated their religious laws by leaving the facility." "Their religious laws involve torturing children," Jake said angrily. "That's not our place to judge," Stone said. "We're a medical facility, not a court of law." Jake stared at his superior officer. "So you want me to hand over a patient to people who will kill her?" "I want you to think about the bigger picture," Stone said. "We have agreements with dozens of species. If we start interfering with their internal affairs, we could lose our protected status in the neutral zone. And if we don't interfere, an innocent girl dies," Jake said. Stone sat down heavily in his chair. "Jake, I understand your feelings, but we have to be practical. One life versus the security of this entire station." "What about my medical oath?" Jake asked. "What about do no harm?" "Sometimes doing no harm means making difficult choices," Stone replied. "I'm reassigning you to other duties. Dr. Martinez will take over the girl's care." Jake felt his heart skip a beat. "You can't do that. She's my patient." "I can and I am," Stone said firmly. "Martinez will prepare her for transfer to the Cytherian delegation. Dr. Martinez won't stand up to them," Jake said. "He'll just follow orders." "That's exactly what I need," Stone said. "Someone who follows orders instead of getting emotionally involved." Jake stood up and walked toward the door. "I'm going to finish my shift." "Jake," Stone called after him, "don't do anything stupid. This decision is final." Jake walked back to the medical bay, his mind racing. He found Amy cleaning equipment while Zara slept peacefully for the first time since her arrival. What did Stone want? Amy asked. "He's taken me off Zara's case," Jake said quietly. "He's bringing in Martinez to prepare her for transfer." Amy's face went pale. "Transfer to who?" "The Cytherian delegation," Jake said. "They want to take her back to their homeworld." Amy looked at the sleeping girl. "Jake, you know what that means." "I know," Jake said. "But Stone says it's not our problem. What are you going to do?" Amy asked. Jake watched Zara sleep. She looked so young and peaceful now, completely different from the terrified, injured girl who had arrived yesterday. For the first time in days, she was not in pain. "I'm going to do what's right," Jake said quietly, "even if it costs me my career." Amy put her hand on his shoulder. "Jake, be careful. If you go against Stone's orders, you could face court-martial." "Then I'll face court-martial," Jake said. "But I won't let them take her." As Jake made his decision, he did not know that the Cytherian delegation was already preparing their ship to take Zara back to their homeworld. And he did not know that War Commander Thex, their leader, had already decided that the girl would not survive the journey home. The only thing Jake knew for certain was that he would not abandon his patient, no matter what the consequences. Jake spent the next day working extra shifts to avoid Dr. Martinez, who had been assigned to take over Zara's care. Every time Martinez tried to examine Zara, Jake found excuses to be in the medical bay. He brought supplies, checked on other patients, and even volunteered to clean equipment just to stay close to her during his lunch break. Jake sat with Zara while she ate. She was getting stronger each day and her burns were healing well. But Jake noticed something strange about her behavior. Every time another patient came into the medical bay, Zara would stare at them with intense concentration. "Are you okay?" Jake asked when he saw her watching a bullion trader who had come in for a routine checkup. "There is something wrong with him," Zara said quietly. "What do you mean?" Jake asked, inside him, in his chest. "Something is growing that should not be there." Jake frowned. He had just finished examining the bullion trader, and all his scans showed normal results. "I don't understand." Zara looked at Jake with her deep purple eyes. "I can feel it. The wrongness in his body. It is small now, but it will grow larger and hurt him." "How can you feel that?" Jake asked. "All Velther can do this," Zara said. "It is why they fear us, why they say we are unnatural." Jake's mind raced. If Zara could detect medical problems that his scanners could not find, this changed everything. "Can you tell me more about what you sense?" Zara closed her eyes and concentrated. "The growth is in his left lung. It is very small, but it will spread to other parts of his body if it is not removed." Jake quickly pulled up the bullion's medical scans on his tablet. Everything looked normal, but Jake had learned to trust his instincts. He ran a deeper scan focusing on the left lung area that Zara had mentioned. At first, nothing appeared. Then Jake adjusted the scanner sensitivity to maximum. A tiny shadow appeared on the screen, so small that the standard scan had missed it completely. It was a tumor, barely visible, but definitely there. "My God," Jake whispered. "You're right. How did you know?" "I can feel the life force in living things," Zara explained. "When something is wrong, the pattern changes. The Velther have always been able to do this, but the other casts say it is evil magic." Jake stared at the scan results. If Zara could detect diseases this early, she could save countless lives. "Are there others like you who can do this?" "All Velther are born with the gift," Zara said sadly. "But most die before they can learn to use it properly. The cleansing facilities are designed to kill us slowly." "Why would your people want to destroy such a valuable ability?" Jake asked. Zara's expression grew bitter. "Because we are not warriors. Catherian society values only strength and conquest. They believe that healing is weakness, that those who feel others' pain are contaminated by it." Jake felt his anger growing. Again, the Catherians were not just committing genocide. They were destroying their own people's greatest gift. "Zara," Jake said carefully, "would you be willing to help me save that bullion trader's life?" Zara looked surprised. "You would trust me to help?" "I would be honored to work with you," Jake said. For the first time since Jake had met her, Zara smiled. It transformed her entire face, making her look like the young girl she was instead of a torture victim. Jake called the bullion trader back to the medical bay. The alien was confused when Jake explained that they had found a small tumor, but he agreed to let Jake remove it immediately. During the surgery, Zara sat beside the operating table and guided Jake's hands. She could sense exactly where the tumor was located and how far it had spread. What should have been a complex operation became surprisingly simple with her guidance. "There," Zara said softly as Jake removed the last of the tumor tissue. "The wrongness is gone. He will heal now." The surgery was a complete success. The bullion trader was amazed that they had found such a small tumor, and he thanked Jake repeatedly for saving his life. Jake made sure to tell him that Zara had been the one to detect the problem. Word of the successful surgery spread quickly through the medical bay. Amy was fascinated by Zara's abilities and asked her to examine other patients. Within hours, Zara had diagnosed 3 more conditions that the station's medical scanners had missed. But Jake's excitement was interrupted when Commander Grant arrived at the medical bay with a security escort. "Dr. Morrison," Grant said, "I need to speak with you privately." Jake followed Grant to a quiet corner of the medical bay. The commander looked very serious. "Jake, I understand you've been avoiding Dr. Martinez," Grant said. "I've been busy with other patients," Jake replied. "Don't lie to me," Grant said firmly. "Martinez told me you've been interfering with his work. I want the girl prepared for transfer by tomorrow morning." "Commander, you need to know about something," Jake said. Zara has incredible medical abilities. She can detect diseases that our scanners cannot find. Grant looked skeptical. What are you talking about? Jake quickly explained about the Boolean trader and the other diagnoses Zara had made. She could revolutionize medicine for all species. We cannot hand her over to people who want to kill her. Jake, I don't care if she can cure every disease in the galaxy, Grant said. We have political realities to consider. The Catherian delegation is threatening to withdraw their support for this station. What support? Jake asked angrily. They won't even let their own people receive medical care here. They contribute nothing to this station except demands and threats. They provide security for this sector, Grant replied. Without Catherian protection, this station would be vulnerable to pirate attacks and territorial disputes. Jake stared at his commanding officer. So, you're willing to sacrifice an innocent girl for political convenience? I'm willing to make hard choices to protect the hundreds of people who live and work on this station, Grant said. Sometimes leadership requires doing things you don't like. Then you're not the leader I thought you were, Jake said quietly. Grant's face hardened. Dr. Morrison, you are relieved of duty. Report to your quarters and stay there until further notice. You can't do this, Jake said. I can, and I am, Grant replied. Security will escort you to your quarters. Any attempt to return to the medical bay will result in immediate arrest. As security officers led Jake away, he saw Dr. Martinez approaching Zara's bed with a sedative injection. Zara looked terrified as she watched Jake being taken away. Jake, she called out, do not leave me. Jake struggled against the security officers holding him. I'll find a way to help you, he called back. I promise. As the medical bay doors closed behind him, Jake heard Zara crying. The sound broke his heart, but it also strengthened his resolve. He would not let them take her without a fight. In his quarters, Jake paced back and forth, trying to think of a solution. He could not access the medical bay, and he could not contact anyone outside the station without authorization. But Jake had one advantage that his superiors did not know about. He had been documenting everything about Zara's case, including her remarkable abilities. Jake activated his personal communication device and began recording a message. If he could not save Zara through official channels, he would have to try something else. He would expose the truth about the Catherian genocide and Zara's abilities to the entire galaxy. It was a desperate plan that would probably end his career and maybe his life. But as Jake heard Zara's cries echoing in his memory, he knew he had no choice. He began his message. My name is Dr. Jake Morrison, and I am a medical officer on Station Omega 7. I am recording this message to expose a terrible injustice that is about to take place. Jake spoke for over an hour, describing everything he had learned about the Velfer, the cleansing facilities, and Zara's incredible abilities. When he finished, he prepared to broadcast the message to every human colony, space station, and military vessel in the sector. Before he could send it, his door chimed. Jake opened it to find Amy standing in the hallway, looking worried. They're taking her tonight, Amy whispered. Martinez sedated her, and the Catherian shuttle is already docked. They plan to transfer her in 2 hours. Jake felt his heart racing. Are you sure? I overheard Grant talking to the Catherian delegation leader, Amy said. He promised that the girl would be in their custody before midnight. Jake looked at his recorded message. It was ready to send, but once he broadcast it, there would be no going back. He would be branded as a traitor and a troublemaker by his own people. Amy, Jake said, I need you to help me with something. It's going to be dangerous, and it might cost us both our careers. Amy looked at him steadily. What do you need me to do? Jake smiled grimly. Help me save a life? Jake and Amy moved quickly through the station's maintenance tunnels, avoiding the main corridors where security might see them. Amy had brought medical supplies and a portable scanner, while Jake carried his recorded message on a datapad. You sure about this? Amy whispered as they crawled through a narrow service tunnel that led to the medical bay. No, Jake replied honestly. But I can't live with myself if I don't try. They reached the maintenance hatch that opened into the medical bay's storage room. Amy checked her scanner to make sure no one was nearby, then quietly opened the hatch. The medical bay was dimly lit, with only emergency lighting active during the night shift. Jake could see Zara lying unconscious on her bed, with Dr. Martinez checking her vital signs nearby. 2 Catherian guards stood at the entrance, their weapons clearly visible. Jake's heart sank when he saw how heavily sedated Zara appeared to be. Martinez gave her enough sedative to keep her unconscious for hours, Amy whispered. We'll need to neutralize it if we want her awake. Can you do that without Martinez noticing? Jake asked and Amy nodded. I can inject a stimulant while he's distracted, but we'll need to create a diversion. Jake thought quickly. What if I activate the emergency quarantine system? It will seal the medical bay and trigger all the alarms. That will bring security running, Amy said. Exactly, Jake replied. But it will also prevent anyone from taking Zara off the station until the quarantine is lifted, Amy stared at him. Jake, if you activate quarantine without a real emergency, they'll court-martial you for sure. They're going to court-martial me anyway, Jake said. At least this way Zara has a chance. While they were talking, Jake's communication device buzzed softly. He had received a priority message from Earth Command. Jake's heart jumped as he read it. Amy, look at this, he whispered excitedly. The message was from Admiral Patricia Hayes, commander of the Human Defense Fleet. It was a response to Jake's earlier report about Zara's medical abilities. Dr. Morrison, the message read. Your report about the alien refugees' diagnostic abilities has been reviewed by our Medical Research Division. If your claims are accurate, this individual represents an unprecedented opportunity for medical advancement. Earth Command is prepared to offer full protection and citizenship to any being with such capabilities. Await further instructions. Jake felt hope rising in his chest for the first time in days. Earth Command wants to protect her, he said. But they're not here now, Amy replied. And the Catherians are taking her tonight. Jake made his decision. Then we make our stand now. Help me get to the quarantine controls. They moved carefully through the storage room toward the medical bay's main area. Jake could hear Dr. Martinez talking quietly to the Catherian guards about the transfer procedures. The sedative will keep her unconscious for at least 6 hours, Martinez was saying. You should have no problems during transport. One of the Catherian guards, a tall warrior with scarred arms, nodded approvingly. Good, War Commander, Vex does not want the contaminated one to wake during the journey. Jake felt his anger flare at hearing Zara called contaminated, but he forced himself to stay calm. He needed to reach the quarantine controls without being seen. The control panel was mounted on the wall near Zara's bed. Jake would have to cross the entire medical bay to reach it, and there was no way to do that without being spotted. I need to create a bigger diversion, Jake whispered to Amy, before Amy could stop him. Jake stepped out of the storage room and walked directly toward the quarantine controls. Dr. Martinez looked up in surprise. Jake, what are you doing here? You're supposed to be confined to quarters. I'm stopping a murder, Jake said loudly as he reached for the quarantine controls. The Catherian guards immediately raised their weapons, but Jake had already activated the emergency system. Red lights began flashing throughout the medical bay as alarms sounded. Metal barriers slammed down over all entrances and exits, sealing the area completely. Emergency quarantine activated, the station's computer announced. All personnel remain in current positions. Medical emergency protocols now in effect. Dr. Martinez stared at Jake in shock. Have you lost your mind? There's no medical emergency. Yes, there is, Jake said firmly. We're about to hand over a patient to people who plan to kill her. That's definitely a medical emergency. The Catherian guards tried to force open the sealed doors, but the quarantine barriers were designed to contain dangerous diseases. Nothing short of explosives could break through them, while everyone was distracted by the quarantine activation. Amy slipped over to Zara's bed and quickly injected the stimulant that would counteract the sedative. Within minutes, Zara began to stir. What? What is happening? Zara asked weakly as she opened her eyes. We're protecting you, Jake said, kneeling beside her bed. Earth Command wants to offer you citizenship and protection. Zara's eyes widened with hope, but then she saw the angry Catherian guards and her expression changed to fear. You cannot protect me from them, she whispered. They will never stop hunting me. The taller Catherian guard stepped forward, his weapon still raised. Human doctor, you have made a serious mistake. This contaminated one belongs to the Catherian Empire. You have no right to interfere. She's not contaminated, Jake said angrily. She's a person with incredible abilities that could help millions of beings across the galaxy. Lies, the guard spat. The Velthar are abominations. Their very existence pollutes the universe. Jake stood up and faced the guard directly. If she's so dangerous, why don't you tell everyone the truth about what the Velthar can really do? The guard's eyes narrowed. What do you mean? Tell them about the healing abilities, Jake said. Tell them how the Velthar can detect diseases and injuries that even our best technology cannot find. Tell them how your people have been systematically murdering their greatest healers for centuries. The guard looked genuinely surprised that Jake knew about the Velthar abilities. Those powers are cursed. They make the Velthar weak and unfit for proper Catherian society. No, Jake said firmly. Those powers make them the most valuable people in your entire civilization, and you've been throwing them away like garbage. Dr. Martinez, who had been listening to this exchange with growing confusion, finally spoke up. Jake, what are you talking about? What healing abilities? Jake quickly explained about Zara's diagnostic powers and how she had helped save the bullion trader's life. Martinez looked skeptical until Amy showed him the medical scans that proved Zara's accuracy. This is impossible, Martinez said. No. One can diagnose conditions this accurately without proper equipment. Zara can, Jake said. And according to her, all Velthar have similar abilities. The Catherians have been committing genocide against their own species' greatest asset. While they were talking, Jake's communication device buzzed again. This time it was Commander Grant, and she sounded furious. Morrison, what have you done? The entire station is in lockdown because of your unauthorized quarantine. Commander, Jake replied calmly, I've received orders from Earth Command to protect this individual. She's been granted preliminary citizenship status pending full review. There was a long pause before Grant responded. That's impossible. I haven't received any such orders. Check your priority messages, Jake said. Admiral Hayes sent confirmation an hour ago. Jake could hear Grant talking to someone in the background. After several minutes, she came back on the communication. Jake, I've reviewed the message from Earth Command. But this doesn't change anything. We cannot afford to antagonize the Catherian Empire over one person, even if that person could revolutionize medicine for the entire galaxy? Jake asked. Even then, Grant replied firmly. I'm ordering you to release the quarantine immediately. I can't do that, Commander, Jake said. My medical oath requires me to protect my patients from harm. The Catherian guard who had been listening to this conversation stepped closer to Jake. Human, your superiors have ordered you to surrender the contaminated one. You must obey. I don't take orders from you, Jake said. The guard raised his weapon toward Jake's chest. Then you will die with her. Before the guard could fire, Zara suddenly sat up in her bed and pointed at him with a shaking hand. You are sick, she said. In a clear, strong voice. There is poison in your blood. Ancient poison that has been there for many cycles. The guard stared at her in shock. What did you say? I can feel it, Zara continued. The wrongness in your body. It is killing you. Slowly. If you do not receive treatment soon, you will die within 2 cycles of the seasons. The guard's weapon wavered as he processed what Zara had said. Jake realized this was their chance. Let her examine you, Jake said quickly. If she's wrong, you lose nothing. If she's right, she could save your life. The guard looked torn between duty and the possibility that Zara was telling the truth about his condition. After a long moment, he slowly lowered his weapon. How could she know such things? He asked quietly. Because the Velthar are not abominations, Jake said. They're healers. And your people have been murdering them for generations. The Cytherian guard stared at Zara for a long moment, his weapon still lowered. The other guard watched nervously, unsure what to do. Dr. Martinez and Amy stood frozen, waiting to see what would happen next. "Examine me," the first guard said, quietly to Zara. "Show me this poison you claim to sense." Zara slowly stood up from her bed, still weak but determined. She approached the guard carefully, her purple eyes focused intently on his face. "Give me your hand," she said softly. The guard hesitated, then extended his left hand toward Zara. The moment she touched his skin, her expression changed to one of deep concentration. "The poison is old," she said, "from a battle wound that never healed properly. On your homeworld, yes? The blade that cut you was coated with thanol venom." The guard's eyes widened in shock. "How could you know that?" "That battle was 15 years ago." "The venom never left your system," Zara continued. "It has been slowly damaging your organs. Your liver is failing and the poison has spread to your blood. You have been feeling tired and weak recently, have you not?" The guard nodded slowly. "For many months now. The healers on my world said it was normal aging." "It is not aging," Zara said firmly. "It is death approaching. But it can be stopped if treated properly." Jake stepped forward. "I can treat thanol poisoning," he said, "but only if we act quickly. The procedure requires specific equipment that we have here on the station." The guard looked confused and conflicted. "But you are humans. Why would you help a Cytherian warrior?" "Because that's what doctors do," Jake said simply. "We help anyone who needs healing, regardless of their species or politics." The second guard, who had been silent until now, suddenly spoke up. "Krex, we have orders. We must take the Velther back to the homeworld." The first guard, apparently named Krex, looked at his companion with troubled eyes. "What if she speaks the truth, Thane? What if I am truly dying?" "Then you will die with honor," Thane replied coldly. "As all warriors should." "But what if I could live and continue serving the Empire?" Krex asked. "Would that not be more honorable?" Before Thane could answer, the medical bay's communication system crackled to life. A new voice filled the room, speaking in the harsh tones of the Cytherian language. Jake did not understand the words, but he could see the fear in both guards' faces. "War Commander Thex," Krex whispered to Thane. "He grows impatient." Thane activated his communication device and responded in Cytherian. Jake could hear angry shouting coming from the other end of the conversation. When it ended, Thane's expression was grim. "War Commander Thex demands to know why the transfer has been delayed," Thane told Krex. "He orders us to break through the quarantine barriers and retrieve the Velther immediately." "But the barriers cannot be broken without explosives," Krex said. "Such weapons would damage the medical equipment and possibly kill the human patients." "The War Commander does not care about human casualties," Thane replied. "He wants the Velther. And he wants her now." Jake felt his blood run cold. "How many people are in the medical section right now?" Amy quickly checked her scanner. 12 patients in recovery rooms, plus 6 staff members in other areas. "Innocent people," Jake said angrily. "Your war commander is willing to kill innocent people just to get to one girl?" Krex looked deeply troubled. "This is not honorable combat. These humans have done nothing to threaten the Empire." "Honor is defined by our superiors," Thane said firmly. "We follow orders." Zara, who had been listening to this exchange with growing fear, suddenly spoke up. "There is another way," she said quietly. Everyone turned to look at her. "What do you mean?" Jake asked. "I will go with them willingly," Zara said, "if it will save the innocent people on this station." "No," Jake said immediately. "That's not an option." "It is my choice to make," Zara replied with sad dignity. "I will not let others die because of me." Krex looked at Zara with something that might have been respect. "You would sacrifice yourself for strangers?" "These strangers showed me more kindness in 3 days than my own people showed me in 5 years, Zara said. "Dr. Morrison saved my life and treated me like a person instead of an abomination. I will not repay that kindness by causing more death." Jake stepped between Zara and the guards. I won't let you take her. There has to be another solution. Thane raised his weapon again. Stand aside, human. The war commander's patience is exhausted. Then, tell your war commander something for me, Jake said, facing Thane directly. Tell him that I've already broadcast everything I know about the Velther to every human colony in this sector. Thane's eyes narrowed. What do you mean? Jake held up his datapad showing the transmission log. 2 hours ago I sent a detailed report about Catherian genocide against the Velther to Earth Command, the Colonial Defense Force, and every major news network in human space. I included medical evidence of systematic torture and documentation of Zara's healing abilities. Dr. Martinez stared at Jake in shock. Jake, do you realize what you've done? I've told the truth, Jake replied. And by now, half the galaxy knows about it. Thane's communication device suddenly erupted with angry Catherian voices. Jake could not understand the words, but the tone was unmistakable. Someone was very unhappy. War Commander Thex is ordering us to return immediately, Thane told Krex after the communication ended. The Catherian High Council has received inquiries from multiple species about the treatment of Velther. What about our orders to retrieve the contaminated one? Krex asked. The orders have changed, Thane said grimly. We are to deny that any Velther exist and claim that the humans' report is fabricated propaganda. Zara looked confused. They are going to pretend I do not exist? It's a common tactic, Jake explained. If they can't silence the truth, they try to discredit it. Commander Grant's voice suddenly came through the communication system again. Dr. Morrison, I'm receiving urgent messages from multiple Earth Command officials. What exactly did you broadcast? The truth about what's been happening here, Jake replied. Admiral Hayes wants to speak with you immediately about establishing formal protection for Velther refugees. There was a long pause before Grant responded. Jake, I'm getting reports that 3 other Velther have already requested asylum at human stations in the past 6 hours. Your broadcast appears to have triggered a mass exodus. Jake felt a surge of hope. Other Velther are escaping? Dozens of them, Grant said. And the Catherian Empire is facing serious diplomatic pressure from the Galactic Council to explain their treatment of this population. Krex looked at his companion with growing uncertainty. Thane, what if we have been wrong about the Velther? What if they truly are healers instead of abominations? Orders are orders, Thane replied, but his voice lacked conviction. Zara stepped forward and looked directly at Krex. Warrior, your poison can be treated. Dr. Morrison can save your life. But you must choose between following orders that are based on lies or accepting help that is based on truth. Krex stared at her for a long moment. Then he slowly sat down. His weapon, I choose truth, he said quietly. Heal me if you can. Thane looked horrified. Krex, you cannot trust these humans. You cannot let the contaminated one touch you? She has already touched me, Krex replied. And I am still alive. More alive than I have felt in months, knowing that my death can be prevented. Jake quickly prepared the treatment for Thanol poisoning while Amy assisted. The procedure was complex, requiring several hours of careful work to neutralize the venom and repair the damage to Krex's organs. During the treatment, Thane stood guard but did not interfere. Jake could see the internal conflict in the warrior's eyes as he watched his companion being healed by the very beings he had been taught to fear and hate. Why do you help him? Thane asked Jake during a quiet moment. He came here to take your patient away. Because he's sick and I can help him, Jake replied without looking up from his work. That's reason enough. Even though he is your enemy, he's not my enemy, Jake said. He's a person who was following orders based on false information. There's a difference. As Jake worked, more messages arrived from Earth Command and other human colonies. The news about Velther refugees was spreading rapidly, and the political pressure on the Catherian Empire was mounting. By the time Jake finished treating Krex, the political situation had changed completely. The Galactic Council had called for an emergency session to investigate Catherian treatment of the Velther, and several major trading partners had suspended their agreements with the Empire pending the investigation. Your people will not thank you for this, Thane said to Jake as he watched Krex's vital signs improve dramatically. My people will be proud of this, Jake replied. We believe in protecting the innocent and preserving life. Krex sat up on the treatment table, looking better than he had in years. The gray pallor was gone from his skin, and his eyes were clear and bright. I feel strong again, he said in amazement. The weakness is gone. You should make a full recovery, Jake said. But you'll need to take medication for several months to ensure all the venom is eliminated. Krex looked at Jake with something approaching reverence. You have given me back my life. How can I repay such a debt? Protect her, Jake said, nodding. Toward Zara. Make sure your people know the truth about what the Veltha really are. 6 months later, Dr. Jake Morrison stood in the observation deck of the newly renamed Medical Station Hope, watching ships from dozens of different species dock at the expanded facility. What had once been a small frontier outpost was now the most advanced medical research center in the galaxy. The transformation had begun within days of Jake's broadcast about the Veltha. As news of the Cytherian genocide spread across the galaxy, public outrage had forced governments to take action. The Galactic Council had voted unanimously to condemn the Cytherian Empire and demand immediate access to the cleansing facilities. Dr. Morrison, a familiar voice called behind him. Jake turned to see Zara approaching, dressed in the blue robes of a senior medical researcher. She had grown taller and stronger over the past months, but more importantly, she had gained confidence and hope. How did the morning session go? Jake asked. Wonderful, Zara replied with a bright smile. We had 12 new Veltha refugees arrive today. 3 of them are already showing remarkable diagnostic abilities. Jake felt pride swell in his chest. In the months since his stand in the medical bay, over 300 Veltha had escaped from Cytherian space and requested asylum at human stations. Each one brought with them unique healing knowledge that had been passed down through generations. Any word from Earth Command about the new funding proposal? Zara asked. Admiral Hayes approved it this morning, Jake said. We're getting enough resources to expand the training program to 5 more stations. The training program had been Zara's idea. She had proposed teaching human doctors how to work alongside Veltha healers, combining advanced technology with the aliens' natural diagnostic abilities. The results had been extraordinary. Diseases that had puzzled doctors for years were being solved in hours. Dr. Morrison, Dr. Zara, another voice called. They turned to see Amy Turner approaching with a datapad in her hands. She had been promoted to head of nursing and was now coordinating medical care for refugees from multiple species. The monthly report is ready, Amy said, handing Jake the datapad. You're going to like these numbers. Jake read through the statistics with growing amazement. In the past month alone, the station had successfully treated over 2,000 patients. The survival rate for critical cases had increased by 40% compared to the previous year. Most impressive of all, they had developed cures for 3 diseases that had been considered incurable. These results are incredible, Jake said. The combination of human technology and Veltha abilities is working even better than we hoped. There's more, Amy said with excitement. Commander Grant just received a message from the Andorian Medical Academy. They want to establish a joint research program here, Jake smiled. The transformation of the station had brought unexpected benefits. Species that had never worked together before were now cooperating on medical research. The fear and prejudice that had once divided the galaxy was slowly being replaced by hope and cooperation. Where is Krex today? Zara asked. I have not seen him this morning. He's training the new security team, Jake replied. The former Cytherian warrior had become the station's head of security, personally overseeing the protection of Veltha refugees. In the months following the crisis, Krex had become an unexpected ally. He had testified before the Galactic Council about the lies he had been told about the Veltha, and his testimony had been crucial in convincing other Cytherian warriors to question their orders. Dr. Morrison, the station's communication system, announced, You have an incoming priority message from the Catherian homeworld. Jake and Zara exchanged surprised looks. Since the crisis began, there had been very little communication from Catherian space. The Empire had been dealing with internal revolution as their own people learned the truth about the genocide. "Put it through to my office," Jake said. When they reached Jake's office, the communication screen showed a Catherian female wearing robes that Jake did not recognize. She looked young for her species, with kind eyes that reminded him of Zara. "Dr. Morrison," the Catherian said in careful universal standard, "my name is Vera. I am speaking for the new Catherian Council." "The new council?" Jake asked. "Yes," Vera replied. "The old government has been replaced. We represent Catherians who wish to make peace with the Velthor and end the genocide of our people." Zara stepped forward, her eyes wide with hope. "Ah. There are others like me still alive on the homeworld?" "Many," Vera said sadly. "We have liberated 17 cleansing facilities and found over 800 Velthor survivors. They are being cared for, but many need medical treatment that we cannot provide. We can help," Jake said immediately. "We have the facilities and expertise to treat them." "That is what we hoped," Vera replied. "But there is more. The survivors have told us about the old knowledge, ancient healing techniques that were preserved in secret for generations. They wish to share this knowledge with the galaxy." Zara's hands trembled with emotion. The old ways survived, even after all the persecution? "The Velthor never gave up hope," Vera said. "They kept the knowledge alive, believing that someday it would be safe to share it again." Jake felt tears in his eyes. The courage of the Velthor was overwhelming. Despite centuries of persecution, they had preserved their healing knowledge for the benefit of all beings. "There is something else," Vera continued. "War Commander Thex and his supporters have been arrested and charged with genocide. They will face trial before the Galactic Council." "What about the other Catherian warriors who participated in the persecution?" Jake asked. "Many are seeking forgiveness," Vera replied. "They were taught lies from childhood, but they are learning the truth now. Some have requested permission to serve as protectors for Velthor communities." Over the following weeks, the station received a steady stream of Velthor refugees from the homeworld. Each one brought new knowledge and abilities that expanded the station's medical capabilities. Jake found himself learning techniques that had been developed thousands of years ago, but were still more effective than modern methods. Zara took on the role of chief cultural liaison, helping newly arrived Velthor adjust to life outside the cleansing facilities. She also worked with human doctors to develop new training programs that combined the best of both species' medical knowledge. 1 year after the crisis began, Jake stood in the main medical bay watching a remarkable scene. A human doctor was working alongside 3 Velthor healers to perform surgery on a critically injured Bolian trader. The combination of human technology and Velthor intuition had saved the patient's life in a way that neither species could have achieved alone. "You did this," Zara said, joining Jake at the observation window. "You changed everything." "We did this," Jake corrected, "all of us together." "But you made the choice to stand up when everyone else was afraid," Zara said. "You showed the galaxy that some things are worth fighting for." Jake thought about that day in the medical bay when he had activated the quarantine system. At the time, he had been terrified that he was throwing away his career for nothing. Now he realized that he had not thrown away anything. He had found something much more valuable than a career. He had found a purpose. "Dr. Morrison," Amy's voice came over the communication system. "We have a new refugee ship requesting permission to dock. 57 Velthor survivors from the outer colonies." "Granted," Jake replied. "Prepare the reception center and alert the medical teams." As Jake and Zara hurried to meet the new arrivals, Jake reflected on how much had changed. The station that had once been a quiet frontier outpost was now a beacon of hope for beings across the galaxy. Diseases that had once been death sentences were now treatable. Species that had been enemies were now allies, but most importantly, the Velthor were no longer hunted and persecuted. They were celebrated as the healers they had always been, sharing their gifts freely with all who needed them. In his quarters. That night, Jake received a message from Admiral Hayes. The Admiral informed him that he had been selected to receive the Galactic Medal of Honor for his contributions to interspecies medicine and peace. The ceremony will be held on Earth next month, the message said. The entire galaxy wants to honor the doctor who stood up for what was right. Jake smiled as he read the message, but he knew the real honor was not in receiving medals. The real honor was in seeing Zara and the other Velther living free and happy lives, using their gifts to heal instead of being persecuted for them. He looked out his window at the busy docking bays, where ships from dozens of species came and went every day. Each ship carried hope. Hope for healing, hope for cooperation, and hope for a future where differences were celebrated instead of feared. Jake had learned something important during those critical days when he made his stand. Sometimes one person's refusal to accept injustice could change the entire galaxy. Sometimes the most important choice a person could make was simply to do what was right, regardless of the consequences. As he prepared for sleep, Jake heard Zara's laughter echoing through the corridors as she worked with the newest refugees. The sound filled him with joy and reminded him why he had become a doctor in the first place. Not for the glory or recognition, but for moments like this, moments when healing and hope triumphed over fear and hatred.